Today was day 1 of week 3. We're getting closer and closer to test day. Oh man, am I not ready. But I tell you, today, going in first thing, I was basically 0% confident on my alley docking and maybe 20% on my on-road because there's a few things I need to work on there. I think I went over in the last episode. Now, I'm pretty confident with my straight back, pretty confident with my offset, pretty confident with my parallel parking. Parallel parking, when are you going to ever use that? So I need to work on alley ducking. And we started off this morning, and it was again supposed to be a day where it was thunderstorming all day. It ended up sprinkling a little bit. I made it there early again today because I was anticipating, a little bit of traffic due to rain, and got there a little bit on the early side. So even stopping for gas, and I got there was pretty early there, checked in, and went out there and started looking at the trucks for pre-trip and stuff like that. Talked to a couple of people, and then went inside to grab a water and overheard a conversation that was happening at the other side of the trailer between Ruben, the yard boss, and one of the instructors, Danny. And he said, Ruben was saying, all right, so why don't you take him out, and then after lunch we'll swap out and you'll take the other group out. And I didn't know which group I was part of, so I said, are we first, sorry to interrupt, are we first or second? And he says, you're going to be this afternoon. So I said, okay, cool. And I went ahead and started to walk out, and Danny quickly ran outside and told me that, he said, he's going to be going very soon with the other group. So could I talk to Fritz? And, because he said, he went out with us yesterday. We were all a little rough. It was day 1, but, Fritz apparently didn't do as well as he was hoping to with the shifting. So he was a little self-conscious about that. So he went and talked to Ruben, I guess. I don't know the exact story, but all I know is that it got back to Danny that he was not 100% confident with his shifting and thinking about changing to automatic. And so Danny ran over and caught up with me and says, I got to head out with the automatic team, but could you do me a favor? And if you have a chance to talk to Fritz. And I said, okay. And he said, he's not confident in his shifting, and he's wanting to go automatic. And of course it is his choice, but he said, every single week he gets a new group that he takes out on the road. And he says, when he takes people to the shifting pad, he said, it doesn't always go very well. He said that we're all about 70% of the way to where we need to be with shifting. And he said he knew that after taking us to the shifting pad last Friday. And he said that after yesterday, we did pretty well. And he said, yes, it's rough. Y'all each had about an hour, if that, to drive. And it was your first time on the road. He said, it's going to happen. You're going to get better the more you do it. And we'll do it every single day. We'll get out there on the road and practice every single day. So you'll get more experience. He said that he has seen people that have been on their last day, testing the following day and shifted as well as we were shifting on the road our first day. So, I was like, really? He says, yes. And they passed. So that's good sign. It's good. So I was like, yeah, I'll talk to him. One thing about Fritz is that he is a hard worker. He's very good at just burning the candle at both ends, and he's very dedicated. He's got a lot of skills. He's talked to me about working in the past, selling cars and stuff like that. Currently, he works at Amazon, but he's doing something called career choice. So he has the option. One of the options he has is that he can continue to work there full time and do CDL training 5 days a week during the week. Most of the time people say, I'm going to do it 2 days a week, and then they work a partial week aside from that. What Fritz is doing on Sunday through Wednesday is he's going into work at 6 p.m. and working until 2:30 a.m. with a half-hour lunch. And so that way he's getting his hours in, and he is with us from 8 a.m. until 4:30 p.m. So tomorrow, after work, he's working right now as I'm recording this. He'll be in there with us tomorrow. So he'll get home, he'll get to sleep, he'll take a shower, go to bed, and wake up and only have like 3 hours of sleep. and then he'll come in to do CDL, training. And that's very intense. That's burning the candle at both ends. But after Wednesday night, he'll go home, go to sleep, and he doesn't have to work Thursday night. So usually he comes in very refreshed on Friday. But he's very dedicated, and he's got a really good mind on him. He's extremely smart. And the reason I'm saying all this is because despite him being very tired, despite him basically, with us at CDL training, which is exhausting for 8 hours a day, and then he turns around and, basically changes clothes, takes a shower, and then goes right on to work. He's very dedicated because he works there too. And then he comes home. So he's still working. He's still doing his shift. And he is very smart. He's extremely smart. He's got his pre-trip down as far as I'm concerned. And he's also doing really well with the on-road. Now, that's the reason why I'm mentioning it, because obviously it is his choice of what he wanted to do. And I thought it was kind of weird that he asked me to speak with him, but I think it's because I'm older. I'm the oldest person out there, I think. And one of the things that I can do is I can see someone who's struggling, or I can see someone who is having a hard time, and I'm outgoing enough and not afraid to go over there and offer assistance, even though they know I'm not an instructor, even though they know that I'm a student just like them. I'm by no means an expert in any of this stuff, very much not. But one thing I can do is help calm people down if they're upset or nervous or something like that. So I did. So I did when Fritz showed up. He signed in. I did approach him and told him the same thing Danny told me. I know you were. Say Danny came. I told him that Danny had come to me first thing in the morning, and he had said that he had mentioned to Ruben a few concerns about shifting. And I said, Danny is fully supportive of you, as are me and Thomas. Whatever you choose to do for you, whatever you feel you need. However, Danny wanted me to tell you this, and he would talk to you himself, except he's already left with the automatic team. And he wanted me to catch you early and basically tell you that, the same thing I just said, is that at the shifting pad, we did better than most people. And that after day one, we were probably, at the top tier of people that are out there shifting. He says, and the same thing, everything he said to me, I basically relayed to Fritz. And, but then I said, no, that's the end of what Danny is saying. And the only thing I would point out to you is I said, and I said to Fritz, I said, you and I have been here since day one together. We have been side by side, supporting each other, going through this. I said, personally, I think you should give it a day or two, because as soon as you go automatic, it's going to be a total change. You're going to have to get used to a different truck for pre-trip. You're going to have to get used to, because they take a day cab, a little small day cab international out for the test, and we're using the Peterbilt, sleeper. So it's a totally different feel of a vehicle. And, with the pre-trip and everything, you have to get totally used to something new. And I said, it'd be a totally different change. So obviously if you want to, but I'd say personally, if it were me, I would probably give it a couple of days, maybe till today or maybe even tomorrow, just to at least see how I'm doing. Because if not, I would maybe look at, after I give it a good, honest few times, see how well it goes. Cause I said, dude, you're smart. You're smart. You catch on really fast. I said that, it's one of those things where day one, you might have not felt that your skills were, but I said, we were all overwhelmed, dude. I said, we were all overwhelmed. And I think you did better on the road than I did. I might have done slightly better with the shifting than you did yesterday, but I said, you were better on the road than I was. Cause, I wasn't slowing down nearly as fast as I should. I wasn't behind the white lines, that kind of thing. So anyway, I said, totally, your call, but, I wanted to at least relay that to Danny and also give you a little something to think about. So anyway, I said, but that done, I said, Ruben had gone off with the people that are testing this week. Danny had gone and started working with the people that were testing this week. Actually, he went out with he did the on-road with the automatic team. And Orlando was over with the people that started fresh last week. So Ruben had all the automatic people, including the people that were there from last week, new last week, and the people that are testing this week, and the other people that happened to be there. So Ruben was pretty full doing his pre-trip stuff with everybody. And that once again left us three not doing anything. So after, it wasn't raining or anything like that. So I went over and asked Ruben, because you heard me on Friday. I was really frustrated at the alley dock. So two episodes ago. So I basically went to Ruben and I said, hey, would you mind if we worked on alley dock? And he looked at me, shook his head and said, no, we're doing pre-trip stuff right now. I said, okay, thank you. And walked away. And then since we had no instructor, I walked over with the stick shift people that were there from last week and new last week. So, went over and while they were not doing pre-trip, while they were doing pre-trip with Orlando, I started talking to him. Now, Mark, he's out with the people being tested because there's so many people testing this week. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, maybe even yesterday, Monday. He went out doing pre-trip stuff, or went out doing the, no, he was with us yesterday, now that I think about it. So anyway, but yeah, that was kind of cool because, we basically went over there and I was hoping to be able to do something, and we were standing around for nearly 2 hours. And, basically, I was expecting to do anything. He could have told me, section A, B, C, coupling, or end cap, and I was prepared for it all. And, because I've been doing a lot of studying on this and thinking about it, and sure as the world, what they told us, you're going to go to sleep and be thinking pre-trip. And that has happened to me. I've gone to sleep, woken up. I went to sleep after the first Friday I had, after day 4, I went to sleep, woke up the next day, and I had realized that I had a dream where I spent an hour and a half, and you only have 2 hours in your test. I spent an hour and a half having to, for some reason, demonstrate how to check your tire pressure. For whatever reason, I spent an hour and a half doing that in the dream. And people kept telling me, you don't have to do that. You don't have to do it. And I said, I want to show him I can do it. For whatever reason, I was that stubborn. I must do it. I must show him. So 2 hours, you're there on the road for 45 minutes, and you only have an hour and 15 minutes or so to do your in-cab, whatever they assign you, and your maneuvers. Once you're done with that, you go on the road for 40 to 45 minutes. And, for whatever reason in my dream, I just had to get it right. And I was taking my sweet time, and I could only imagine what the evaluator was doing, but he wasn't around he wasn't around in the dream. He was, I guess, watching from afar, shaking his head for whatever reason, but I was very determined. He was tuned out of my world. I was just concentrating on messing with the metal valve stem for whatever reason. But anyway, I'm getting totally sidetracked here. So they worked on pre-trip. They did the evaluations for a few different pre-trips. There was, I think, 3 of them. There's Zach, there's Beth, and then there's Kay. And after, there was one other guy who changed over from automatic, and I don't know who he is, but he was with them also. And he's also been the one person that has not been really active with them. He's been kind of standing on the outskirts and watches everybody else do things, and then he jumps in, and just adds himself to the group and doesn't really interact and converse and communicate and talk about, this part of the truck and this part of the truck and what did you say on this and that kind of thing. So I wish him luck. I don't know him, but he might need to be a little more vocal, if he has any questions. He may just have it all down for all I know and just want to lay low so that way he's not having to distract himself. I don't know. Anyway, 10 o'clock rolled around. And it was pretty obvious we weren't going to be doing pre-trip because they like to try to get on the yard doing maneuvers by about 9, 10 at the latest. And approaching 10 o'clock, they were just like, okay, well, we're going to probably do some maneuvers now. And so me and Thomas and Frashad were like, okay, well, that's fine. I went to my car because at that point, it had gotten to the point where it was starting to get a little sunny. So I grabbed my sunglasses. And as I was leaving the car, Ruben calls me and says, hey, go grab and he told me the numbers, like whatever it was, 4 digits. And he said, go get the keys for the Peterbilt and grabbed 2 walkies. And I asked him, where they were, and he told me. And so I went inside and grabbed it, and then I came back out and gave him one of the walkies, and then I went to start up the Peterbilt. And just that way you can build up pressure. And as soon as I got in there, I turned on the walkie and stepped out, and I told Orlando, who was over there, I told him that I just started it up. He says, is the air pressure built up? I said, not yet, but it should be momentarily. And he says, okay, I'm gonna you jump in and drive it around. I'm gonna show you where to go though. So he was on the ground directing me. Built up the pressure, jumped in, and then directed him over. And Ruben was like, we're gonna set you up on alley duck. I'm like, yes, thank you. All right. So I got to look at the name. I want to give credit where credit is due. I was looking up a lot of different techniques, and there ended up being a channel. It's a video that's 6 years old as of the time of this video by a guy named Mike Logan. His video is called CDL Test Class A 2023 90-degree alley duck. So apparently he still updates his titles. And I'll tell you, of all the videos I found online, of all the teachers that have given me their tips and tricks and stuff like that, this video is one of 2. I think I mentioned this in yesterday's video, that actually kind of got in my mind as to this may work for me. The technique Mike talks about is, he says, get yourself lined up. He says, start to turn, jackknife, and start to turn away from the side you're going toward, turn to the right, and start to back up. And once you see about half the landing gear, turn back and try to maintain that as you start to move toward the box. All right. So I went to try this technique first because I knew that there was one other technique I was going to try. Got in there, I'd already lined up the trailer, and I backed up. And as I started to go around, instead of seeing the edge of the convex mirror where it's always right on the very side, I'm seeing this stretched view of of where the box is. And it just looks so awkward. Instead of that, as I started to back up, I started to notice that it was closer to the middle, so it wasn't nearly as distorted. And I also could lean in better and see it better. Something else that happened is, as I started to get closer to the box, I suddenly realized that the thing that people had told me about turning to the left a little bit to widen out your turn, or to turn to the right a little bit to tighten it up a little bit, that was something that was making sense now. Not just because it suddenly just clicked, but because when I was aligning myself and coming around, it made it easier for me to aim about 2 or so feet in front of the cones. So I was able to say, well, the trailer's not coming around nearly as fast enough, so I was able to tighten it up or loosen it. Not perfectly. I messed up a couple of times, but the very first time I went to do this technique, I backed up the trailer to the edge of the box, and then I pulled forward, and I, surprisingly enough, had plenty of room. So I went ahead and backed up, and I only had the one pull forward. And I was like, okay, there may be something onto this trick. So at that point, Farshad, came up after me, and he says, hey, that was good. I was like, yeah, I surprised myself on that one. I said, all right. So I said 0% confidence. Now I'm at about 25. I don't want to give myself too much credit, but, because it was probably a fluke. The second time I went, I think I had 2 pull-ups, but I didn't hit any cones, and I still got in the box. And so when I got out, I said 50% confidence. Next time, oh man, did I screw the pooch on that one. Man, I started to back up. I couldn't get in the box. I was like, after doing 2 pull forwards, I said, this sucks. So at that point, I realized I wasn't going to do it. So I pulled back, towards the beginning of the setup again, if not all the way over there, and then decided to start over with the technique. And this time I was totally off and all over the place, to the point where after doing 2 pull-ups and saying, you know what, I got to teach myself to fix this. What does it take? And I'm thinking about it. The trailer's doing this way. I need to move the trailer here. What maneuvers do I need to do with the tractor in order to get it over there? So I need to turn to the right so that way it goes to the right. And then I need to go back to the left so that way it centers up. But then that's going to make the trailer go from here just over here. So what I need to do is pull forward a little bit and then go back. So I had to rationalize it. But man, did I screw that up. And I ended up coming in where, if this is the box, Normally you go in this way into the box. You go into it so that way you're this way. Well, I ended up getting so far out, I was facing the opposite direction. And so I looked at this and I said, how in the world did I come to this? At this point, I was kind of laughing. I was like, okay. So I think I didn't hit any cones, but man, I think I pulled forward all of like 8 times, which if I didn't use any of my points on the straight back or the offset, I still would have gotten past it. As long as you don't hit cones, you can go and you can do as many as 14 pull-ups as I understand it. So I was like, okay, well, not pretty at all. And I could just imagine the guy at the DDS being like, did you learn how to do this at all? Anyway, so I got it in the box finally. And I tell you, I got out and looked one time and I said, okay, I'm barely inside the box. I'm going to back up another foot. And at that point I wanted to make sure I wasn't frustrated, because y'all saw me Friday when I was frustrated 2 episodes ago. I was pretty frustrated. I know Danny, the instructor, was trying to help, and I got a little, I was like, look, I'm just your remote control if you walk me through this. I got to fail. I'm not afraid to fail. I need to practice this. And at one point I felt really bad because Kay came by to ask me how it was at the shifting pad. And I just was like, I was like, man, this alley dot, and I just totally ignored her question. I was just like, this thing is just driving me nuts. And she's like, whoa, hold on a second. I was asking about the shifting pad. I'm like, oh, that was easy. And I'll tell you, that's one thing I did not mention in yesterday's video, but I'm the kind of person that can admit when they're wrong. Here's one thing that I will say. If you admit you're wrong, that does not mean that you're a bad person. On the contrary, it means that you can own your mistakes. And so when I came in yesterday, Monday morning, I saw Kay first, and I stopped by and I stopped her and I said, hey, I said, I just wanted to apologize because I was really short with you. I got frustrated. And she just was like, Alan, she's like, you don't need to say all that kind of, you don't need to worry about that. I wasn't worried about it. And I said, still, I appreciate that. But at the same time, I respect you too much. I should not have treated you that way. I was disrespectful to you, and I wanted to apologize. And she's like, well, that's all right. She was just like, okay, well, you don't have to say that. And I was like, well, I had to for me, and I had to because, out of respect. And she's like, okay, thanks. She was like, all right. I did see Danny, and he was busy for a bit. And when I finally did pull him aside for a second, I said, I know Friday I was a little heated because, frustrated with the alley doc, and I vented some of that frustration towards you. I wanted to apologize, and he just burst out laughing. He was just like, yeah, it happens. It happens. Don't worry about it. And I was like, okay. Anyway, so back to what I was saying. So today, that was the third time. The fourth time, I didn't get as screwed up as I did the third time. I came in there, I pulled forward a couple of times and still wasn't right. So it took a couple more pull forwards, and 2 of the pull forwards I remember didn't accomplish anything. I looked at it and it says, okay, trailer's here. I want it to be here. So what do I need to do? I need to go serpentine over. So I need to go, because it's angled this way a little bit, I got to go a little bit to the left and then go hard right, and then come back a little bit so that way it straightens up. And the trailer, for whatever reason, was in the same place when I was like, what did this accomplish? Nothing. Because I started to go back. I'm like, I'm in the same line as before. That's stupid. Anyway, it was funny. So anyway, I finally got it in there. I think it was a total of like 5-6 pull-ups, but it wasn't as wonky of an angle. It was just me laughing at that point in the trailer saying, this is just dumb. I've totally like botched this a couple of times, and I remember, since we didn't really have an instructor, I backed into the box, and then I got out and looked, and I was like, okay, I'm barely in it. I'm going to go a little bit more. And at this point, I had a second get out and look. If it was a test day, I would have gone out and I would have used it. But this time I just backed up what I thought was like another foot or so, and then just honked the horn and got out. Ended up being right over the line on the other side. So I would have failed. This is why you do your second get out and look. But at that point, I had 2 times that I was not happy after doing 2 times doing well. So I said, get me out of the truck before I get frustrated. I don't want to get frustrated again. So at that point, I went ahead and admittedly, since it was just cones and wasn't instruction or whatever, I was like, you know what? get me out of the trailer so that way I can think about things. And I just kind of had to get in the zone and think about things. We were getting close to lunchtime, and I was watching for Shad, and finally it was my turn, and we had like 10 minutes left. So I jumped in the truck and started backing up. This time I pulled forward twice, but I did get in the box. So I used my 2 free pull-ups and had no issues. Okay. So I was happy with that. And so I'm not going to say because the 2 pretty bad, technically I would have had it still, because I would not have gone over in points as long as I didn't use any in the straight back or the offset. But I want it to be better. So I would say probably I'm happy with the technique. I'm still dialing it in and making sure I understand it. I would still hold firm around 50% confident. It's a lot better than it was going into today. And so, yes, thank you very much. That the Mike, what's his name? Jeez, I need to remember his name because he's actually got a good video. And his name is Mike Logan. Mike Logan. Good video. Anyway, very much appreciate that one. So after lunch, I knew we were going to go out because they had said that first thing. So we jumped in the truck, and I tell you, the clouds were black and they were coming towards us where we were, and it was not looking pretty. And I remember I went and said to Ruben, I was like, "See how dark the sky is there?" And he says, "Don't worry, y'all going the other way." I'm like, "Okay." So I was like, it's going to catch us. I was like, it's supposed to catch us. But so we jumped out there, and Dane was like, "Oh, we're going to get in the truck and we're going to outrun it." I'm like, "Okay." Anyway, we turned the other way and we went the other way. He said, "Where did you go yesterday?" I said, "I was the last guy." He says, "Well, you're going to start us off today." I said, "Okay." So I jumped in the driver's seat, started driving. On road, I did better than yesterday. The first time, blew right over the white line when I came to a stop. I did stop. After the first time, I think every other time I came to a stop, which was only 2 other times, I did stop before the white line. Actually, the second time, I stopped just over it, and I said, "Crap," I said, "I just went over the white line." He said, "Yes, you did." And I was like, "Okay, well, I called it." The next time I stopped before the white line. So I was actively thinking about it. The biggest issue I think I was having today is that I didn't realize this until afterwards when I saw Thomas. But when Danny says, you just shift, as soon as you touch the gear, shift as fast as you can and move up. There's a difference between going pop, pop and really dropping the clutch all the way down and try to jam it in gear and chop, pop, pop, and just spending an extra half a second to time things right. That was where I feel today. And as opposed to going pop, pop and trying to get the timing right to pop, 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 which I'm still jamming the clutch all the way down. I know that you can just pop it like that, and I just cannot do that just yet when I'm going too fast. So what I need to do is go doom, doom. Make sure I clutch to pull it out of gear, clutch to push it in gear, build a pause in there. The speed will come. So that was the mistake, one of the mistakes I did today. Again, we went through that roundabout, and this time I jumped the curb less than I did yesterday, but still it would have been a fail. There was one other turn that I did as a right turn, and I did the white turn, went into oncoming lane, and as I was pulling back over there, the white line curves like this, and then as opposed to just doing a smooth curve all the way over, it like does this number out and then back in, and I clipped just the edge of that, so that would have been a fail also, because the curve, it doesn't just the paint on the road doesn't just curve straight over. It curves and then it literally bumps out and then back in for whatever reason. It's like a bad paint job, but hey, I still have to stay inside the white line, right? One thing that Danny was like, is you like riding that yellow line, don't you? And I was like, am I? And he's like, well, look in your mirrors. And I glanced in the mirror, and then I glanced in the other one. I'm like, yeah, I'm foot on this side, 3 feet on the other side. I was like, yeah, I guess I am. So, but it just feels in the truck like you need to be farther over to the left. What I'm not realizing, though, is that when I'm in my car, my shoulder is literally against the left side. Car's what, about 6 feet wide, something like that, 5.5. And in the truck, you're not jammed up against the side. You have a little bit more on the side, and then you have the wheels that stick out. Not the wheels. The trailer sticks out, and the mirrors stick out. So you're about the same distance over. I didn't really think about that. Now, the center emblem that sticks up the little hood ornament, it's in the middle of the road. So what I needed to think about, and I didn't realize this until it was probably too late, is that I should be lining up more or less barely over to the left, because right where the gear shifter is almost the center of the lane. Realizing that, it's going to change me tomorrow. I'm going to realize that I don't need to be as far over on the left-hand side. I can be a little bit closer to the inside, because as opposed to being like, this is the width of a normal car and you are closer to the side, like over here, you're sitting in this area here on a car. On a truck, you're sitting like here. So there's a lot more on the side. So width-wise, it may be a wider vehicle, but you are closer to the inside. It's almost like there's more to your side in a car. Like you're still sitting in the same place, but there's more. I think I'm beating that dead horse on that one. But you get where I'm going with that. So that's what I'm going to be doing tomorrow, slowing down a little bit on the shifting and concentrating more on riding closer to the center of the lane, knowing now that, now still, my car is very responsive. If you just barely turn the wheel, the thing is, so I am, when the truck does not seem to stay, in the lane and respond to very smooth little touches like that, I feel the need to do this. And then I have fast reaction time. So then I find myself, doing adjustment like this and then like correcting. And Denny's like, he's like, you don't need to go so jerky with the steering. You can go smoother with it. I'm like, just need to get in that mode, because he's right. He's right. I'm still thinking about the car responding, or thinking about it as responding like my car, but it's not. There's a whole 2 inches of play in that steering wheel. And what I need to do is compensate for that. I need to be slower with it, realizing that as long as I'm closer to the center of the lane, I should be able to play the wheel to get it centered. I tell you though, it does feel fast when I'm driving down the road, even at like 45. So I got to get accustomed to that. And probably if I can slow down the steering and slow down and chill out a little bit with the speed of my shifting and slow down in anticipation a little better. I did better today. There was the very last turn I did that was pulling into a gas station. When I pulled in there, I understand now, but it's like normally if you start in a low gear, you have 1, 2, 3, and 4. You go through those pretty quick. There's also, and then you flip the switcher and you go up to 5, 6, 7, 8. 5 is good for about 15 miles an hour, up to maybe 25. 6 is maybe 25 to 35. 7 is 35 to 45, and then 8 would be above that. So you can go in fifth gear all the way down to like 15 miles an hour, no problem. Even lower if you're starting at a stop sign and you don't mind, having less power, but you don't necessarily need to do that. You need to still start at like 3 and then go quickly through 4 and 5, but you don't shift in an intersection. So the biggest issue I was having is slowing down. I felt the need to constantly downshift. And he's like, you don't need to downshift out of 5th. You can just downshift to 5th. And then as soon as you come to a stop, you can change. And I was like, okay, well, one turn I went to do, I came to a slow down and he said, all right, check your mirror over there, see if there's anyone coming. I said, there is someone coming and I'm approaching this yield sign. And he says, do you think you have enough room to make it? I says, I do. And he says, okay, then keep on rolling. So I coasted right on through there, but I'm in 5th. He says, downshift into at least 4. And I'm like, suddenly I'm like, okay, crap. Now I was thinking to stay in 5th, but he's like, switching to 4. So I'm like, okay, That means hit the switcher, go from fifth, which is up, to hit the switcher and go over and back down. So I'm like thinking that, and I'd go over the white line again. So it's like, what I need to do is I know what he's asking for now. So tomorrow, what I'm going to have to do is slow down. And if it looks like there's enough of a gap, go from fifth, go ahead. It's not going to hurt anything if I drop it into fourth, because fourth has more power. So once I get into fifth and I'm barely rolling, like 15 miles an hour, I'm going to go ahead and hit that switcher and drop it into fourth, hoping that as long as I'm in that lower gear below 5, he'll be okay with it because I'm not pulling anything. If I can do that and anticipate and enter that hopefully I won't, hopefully it won't be an issue. And then even if it is, and he says, go to 3, I'll be able to go to 3, from 4 to 3 without thinking about the switcher. And hopefully it'll be a lot easier and smoother process. If I keep rolling, I would at least be in fourth gear, which is more power. And then I can concentrate more on glancing at the trailer as it goes, hopefully not over the line. That's what there's a lot to do, because I'm still a little bit like, don't drive into the oncoming lane. Don't drive onto the wrong side of the road. Don't drive into the other lane. I'm used to pulling into the close lane. But I know with a tractor trailer combination, you can do that and you should do that, because it's going to keep your wheels from hitting signs and people on the side of the road or whatever else. There's not anybody out there at all. So that's less things to think about. But I need to have more confidence in myself in the fact that I'm driving in rural areas, so there's plenty of room. I'm not worried about cutting corners. I don't need to worry about cutting corners too tight or going too wide, because as long as I look at the road and judge, the cars that are coming and make sure I have an appropriate gap, I don't need to worry about if I pull out there, cars suddenly deciding to go right into the lane, thinking that I'm going to go there if I need to make a wide turn. They're expecting, probably, as long as there's enough of a gap, me to make a wide turn. But once I pull back into my lane, I've committed to staying in that lane. So that's when cars are going to pass by. So what I need to do is do it as wide as I need to in order to not have that rear wheel go over the curb. So a lot of things to think about. There's a lot that truck drivers have to think about on the road. And the ones that have it down to a science and stuff, those guys are amazing. It's a lot to think of. There's a lot that goes into having a Class A license. A lot of respect to those guys. It's a lot to learn. So anyway, after I did my bit, I think I did better than I did yesterday. He certainly, he was answering my questions. I found it easier to ask questions and stuff like that. I tell you this though, after me, Frashad went, and he did so well. He was like a different person with the gears. He did not grind them maybe 2 or 3 times, but he was so good. He was so smooth on the road and stuff like that. And I was just like, man. And this guy was thinking about giving up shifting. He did so well. So as soon as it was done, I was like, dude, you did great. And then Thomas went, of course, made me sick because he was all great. As always, really good at driving. 19 years old and really good at driving, I tell you. Anyway, so, but you know what? The guys were really smooth driving to the point where normally I'm not the kind of person that's gonna doze off in the truck or whatever, because I'm gonna be looking around. But we were just driving down the road, and there wasn't any conversation, because people would say, speed limit change from 45, whatever, and it was just kind of a casual drive down the road, and everything was really smooth. So I tell you, I was like, dozed off a couple times. Very relaxing, windows down. It'd been rainy, because here's the thing. When we went out in the truck, sure as the world, Ruben was right. The storm was coming right through where we were, but we went the opposite direction. So we went farther east and went straight that direction, and the storm literally went right past. So they got rained out on the yard, and Ruben ended up sending everybody home at 3:00 after sitting around for a while in the rain. There's like, all right, well, you might as well leave. And so we came back and there was no one there. So we signed out and went home, and he said, I'll put you out at the same time as I put everyone else on. I'm just like, thank you. I need the time. But anyway, today was a good day. Today was a good day. Better on the road, still nowhere near where I need to be, and better with alley docking. So yes, I'm feeling better about things. Now we're still supposed to have torrential downpours. It's supposed to be raining and thundering and whatever else the rest of the week. So we'll see what that does to us, especially tomorrow being Wednesday. We will see what things happen, but it'll be neat. It'll be neat to see what happens, because I've been thinking about things as to what I need to do better and how I need to do things. What I will say is that, how I've used the analogy in the past is like, it's like me being blindfolded and saying, what is the feel, describe the texture of this, but I'm wearing gloves. Wasn't able to feel it before. Today, it's like I'm wearing like food gloves, food preparation gloves. Those like the ones at Subway and at cafeterias and stuff that are like not the skin tight ones, but the ones that are very thin, the disposable gloves that go on your hands, and then you end up, you can touch things, but you can feel through it a little bit. If I kind of think about it a little bit, I'm like, all right, well, that's what this texture is for the most part. It's not great. You're still not able to tell a whole lot of detail, but it's feeling better. That's where I am right now. So we're getting better. We're no longer wearing thick winter gloves. We're now wearing food preparation gloves. There you go. So things are looking up. Looking forward to continuing on tomorrow. Feel better.